he finds out like, dude, you're not the only Loki, like chill in it, there's like bare different versions of you. Oh, and it humbles him, and you can see he's kind of starting to question himself. Big shot to the ego. And then he goes on a journey. He ends up basically like falling in love with this woman called Sylvie. For me, it represented like a journey of Loki learning to love himself.
Baki Hanma, he's not interested in fighting other people. He has one goal: fuck you, dad, I want to be stronger than you. A lot of the fighters in Baki, they've got this ego about them which has driven them to a point where they've worked on their skills a lot. It means too much about them. Baki doesn't give a shit about how it looks to other people if he wins or loses.
With Oppenheimer, the other thing that really stood out for me was like at the end of the movie, he basically started to be opposed to the use of nuclear weapons because he saw the devastation. And I love that because it's like he's taken a stand for what he believes to be true. What are we taking a stand for in our life?
Welcome forward, ladies and gents, to another episode of
Nerd Life Coaches.
Yes, I'm Sachin.
I'm Alex.
And we started this podcast. We're both professional life coaches who live in London. We started this podcast so that we could share what we're learning from watching TV, movies, video games, anime, you name it, we watch it and we play it. Well, me not so much right now. My PlayStation's broken. And we always have these conversations about what we learned from the story, how we've changed as a result of it. And we just thought we'd share these conversations with you because it would be great to start hearing what you think and what you get from these things, because we'd be talking about this anyway.
Yeah, and it's like us opening the door to have conversations with people who are interested in similar things. You know, it's not like we're just recording this to just put content out there for the sake of it.
Yes, we're not shouting into the void.
Yeah, we've got enough going on our plates as it is. We're doing this because it's like we love it, and we know it's a great way to open conversations. Like, we've had some amazing conversations with people we know about the kind of topics we talk about here, and this is just a way for us to open the doors, so to speak, to more of those conversations. And yes, that means I'm talking about you if you're listening or watching right now.
Don't be a lurker.
Howdy. Come find us. Instagram, TikTok at Nerd Life Coaches. And yeah, today we haven't done this in a while. We're doing a what have we been watching recently episode, because there's been quite a lot of stuff that we've covered in recent episodes, like specific stuff, but there's been a bunch of stuff that we've kind of been like watching individually, or some stuff we've watched not literally together but at the same time. And yeah, we just thought, right, let's roll the carpet out and see what we got.
I watched The Mummy Returns, and The Scorpion King, and then The Tomb of the Dragon King, or whatever, or Dragon Emperor.
I didn't even know there was a fourth one.
Yeah, they shouldn't have made it, but whatever. They're great movies, man. They always used to come on ITV2, innit? Yeah, they were great movies.
They were.
I don't really want to break them down because there's nothing in there, but
yeah,
I'm sure there is stuff in there, but I wasn't looking for it. I was just looking to be entertained.
Yeah, just to chill and watch a film. After we did the X-Men episode, I've been watching a lot of the X-Men movies. I've watched most of them now. Logan is the only one I've got left, I think. And First Class. I didn't watch First Class, but I'm going to go back and watch it. Are you serious? Yeah, I skipped it.
Why?
Because I wanted to watch the other one.
What was the other one? Days of Future Past.
Yeah, I wanted to watch that. Because everyone kept banging on about how good it was. So I was like, right, I need to watch that. And then I was like, okay, I should have watched First Class. So I'm going to watch that, then watch Logan.
Days of Future Past isn't like... Okay, maybe it is the best X-Men movie, but I don't think that's saying a lot. Logan is my opinion, is my favourite one, but it's got none of the X-Men in it.
Yeah, it's just him, isn't it? Literally.
And
Professor X at one point.
And I think it's got a few people. But remember when X-Men 1 came out?
Yeah.
And that scene with the president, and it's actually fucking, what's her name in disguise? Mystique.
Yeah.
That was like, it was like revolutionary to me, because you wouldn't see that on TV normally or on the screen.
Yeah, it's true. Maybe the other one was, we don't need to get into it because we broke it down already, but like the opening scenes to X2 with Nightcrawler, and he's like shape-shifting around, and he's like wiping out all the president's men.
Perimeter breach at Visor Street.
That's like one of the best opening scenes to a superhero movie like ever. It's just sick. Like,
iconic.
I was like gripped from the first like 30 seconds. I was like, oh crap, I forgot how good this was.
All right, so let me hit you with this one, Hef. I've missed out on watching House of the Dragon, the Game of Thrones one. I'm probably gonna watch it when it like is all coming out and we can see it without waiting a year for the fucking thing. Or I might just binge the whole thing. I don't know. What do you reckon?
I like to watch things. So like with Game of Thrones, I really enjoyed the fact I couldn't binge it because it kept the anticipation. One of the best things about Game of Thrones for me, and like we're gonna do a whole Game of Thrones breakdown at some point. One of the best things about Game of Thrones for me was the gap between the episodes, the weekly gap. Because I'd be watching the breakdowns, I'd be reading the conspiracy theories, I'd be on the Reddits, on the YouTube, I'd be Twitter threads, all of it was going off. And like that, but that was some of the best bit for me is I find when you binge a series, you don't get that because they leave episodes hanging and then like you just go and click the next episode. You don't get the, oh my God, I wonder if this means that. And I wonder if this is connected to the thing.
That's what I have with Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
No one gets in it. They did it. They dropped a couple of trailers recently for the next game. It's only like it's coming out in like 6 weeks, but it looks fucking nuts. And people I would include myself in this. People are going fucking crazy looking for, like when you have to zoom in on a trailer like 20 times and you can try and make out someone's face as a pixel. They're like, hey, is this guy from Mortal Kombat 4? He hasn't been in the game for 20 years, and we're losing our fucking minds, and like. It sounds like that. Yeah. So this is why I'm considering. Should we both watch the first season of House of the Dragon?
Yeah, I'm down for it, man. I'm down for it. And then do you know what? If we start watching that will get the juices flowing for the Game of Thrones.
Then we're gonna end up doing Game of Thrones.
But we need to finish our Naruto one first. Let's not get carried away. If you haven't seen the Naruto breakdown and you're a fan, go check it out. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3 should all be out by the time this comes out.
What's it called? There's this shout out to Nethercast, whatever, however you want to fucking say it. This is YouTube channel where they talk about Mortal Kombat, and they've got this. They do this thing called a character retrospective. And they've got 4 episodes on Raiden, which are like 2 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, Jeez. 2 hours. Scorpion, he's got like 7 parts. And they've got these 4 bare characters. Yeah, they're like at least a minimum hour and a half breakdown. Yeah. And they do multiple parts every time they update the games, innit?
Yeah.
They go back
to it. Wow. I mean, that would be what we would get up to if we were like, if we were just left to like just record everything that we wanted. It'd be like, okay, character breakdown. Hour and a half. Jon Snow.
I don't want it.
Oh shit, mate! Do you know what? That Game of Thrones breakdown is gonna be nuts. I say we watch it all again.
I'd be down for that.
That's 8 seasons.
Yeah, I mean we can skip the last 2. To be fair.
Fair enough.
Because
I really enjoyed the. No, okay, we'll do Game of Thrones later.
Yeah, but all right. So talking of that's the old stuff. New stuff. We got the new Invincible trailer dropped, and a prequel episode. Does that make sense? And the new Loki trailer dropped. I want to talk about a bit both of those. So Invincible, we got season 2 coming out, which I'm gassed for because season 1 we broke this down in our very first episode, didn't we? It was our very first episode. We broke it down, and I've been gassed for the second season. It's coming out in a few weeks' time. But they dropped a prequel episode featuring one of the main characters, mainish character, Atom Eve, and telling her origin story. It wasn't the best episode of all time, but there was some interesting stuff that I pulled out. So the first one was, Atom Eve, her origin story is that she was kind of made in a lab essentially, and her mum gave birth to her, but her mum died. So the doctor who made her wanted her to survive, and he basically handed her off to a couple who thought they'd lost their baby. And they're like, oh no, she didn't die, like she actually survived, but they didn't know it was Atom Eve. So these 2 parents raised this child not knowing about these quote unquote powers that she had, and they raised her as like a normal child, but she was anything but normal, and they just thought she was really weird and she was strange and she didn't like things that other kids liked, and she just had these weird quirks. And you can see the way that, especially the way that the dad spoke to her, the way that he was creating her in his mind. And it's like, this is how we create people in relationships, right? He was creating her as like, oh, you're this weird kid, why aren't you like the other kids, why aren't you this, why aren't you that, we need to send you to a special school, why can't you just be like the normal kids, and all this. And he's creating her as a problem in his life. Whereas if he was actually appreciating her for her gifts, he would experience a very different daughter to the one that he thought he had. He'd experience it entirely differently. And it's like, what I'm seeing in that is like, how are we showing up for ourselves and the people that we're in relationships with, friends, family, partners, significant others, whatever it is, right? Colleagues. how are we showing up for them? Are we showing up in a way of like, oh, we're only looking at the bad stuff and we're like, oh, that's a problem, you're a problem in my life? Or are we showing up like, oh wow, like you've got something special there, I'd love to learn from it, like, and take interest in that? Because if Adam Eve's dad was treating her as like a special child in a positive way and not in a negative way, he would be like, you know, her experience of growing up with her family would have been entirely different. And I think it speaks to a lot of us, like, you know, I know when I have kids, I want to make sure that I'm, you know, creating them as the best version of themselves and for their skills and their talents and their uniqueness, and not like putting that stuff down in the bad bucket and being like, oh, you're strange because of this, that and the other. Like, yeah, cool, if my kid's into like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something random, like obsessed with chess. It's not that random, but it's the first thing that came to mind. Obsessed with chess. I'm gonna be like, sick. Like, show me how to play. I don't know how to play. Like, teach me. Like, tell me why you like it. What are you getting from it? Like, I'm gonna really like want to cultivate that. You know, like nourish that in them. Little bit of a Salt Bay action going on here. Cultivate it and nourish it, because it's in interest. And I think that was like really interesting in the episode, how like that her parents are creating her in that way of like, you're a problem to us, not a gift.
So here's something. I was just making a note. I wasn't sending a text when you were talking.
Yeah.
I was making a note.
We'll review the footage and see what was really going on.
I wrote down this question: do we really want everything to go our way all the time? So if you look at like Adam Eve's dad, his misunderstanding is that if she was normal, he would have an easier life. Normal. Now, it just got me thinking, like, when we want stuff to go our way, we think that we would feel better if we won every single time we were doing something. And if you look at the people who kill themselves most often, like, or people who are really depressed after getting everything they want, that proves that to be false. We don't actually want everything to go our way all the time. If you only had positive outcomes of everything you did, there'd be no challenge in it. You'd get bored, and it's not those positive outcomes are not delivering the feelings we expect them to. So then you get even more depressed, like, oh, I wanted all this stuff, I've got it, now why am I still not happy? The void gets bigger because you're trying to put more in it. And Adam Eve's dad is having that problem in it. Even if he had everything from her that he wanted, he'd still not feel the way he anticipates he would feel. And I think there's like there's a lesson in there for all of us about why are we getting hung up on the stuff that we want.
Yeah,
It's the journey of him parenting her can be so rewarding for him. He could become a totally different person that he's proud of, instead of, oh, I have to work this job, I got to do all these things, and now on top of that I got all of this shit to deal with. He's missing the gold.
Yeah, and it's like he's given his own power away to the stuff that he thinks like, once I have this, then, you know, my life will be whatever. And it's like he's not seeing the power for himself, and he's not seeing the power in how he's the one that's creating in his mind his experience of Eve. He's creating it to be a problem rather than creating it to be a gift. And it's like, you know, I've been reading, I mentioned this in the last episode, we recorded the Celestine Prophecy, and it's like one of the insights that they talk about, it's like based on spiritual teachings. One of the insights they talk about in the book is like, when you know that you're connected to the infinite source, like you can give your energy away whilst knowing that it's going to be replenished. Whereas a lot of people are trying to like steal energy from other people, trying to fill up their own cup. And I feel like that's what the dad's doing there with Eve, is like he's trying to take her energy away to fill up his own void, rather than like being willing to kind of give it away in like a abundant way, knowing that that's always going to be replenished, and he's going to give her you know, for want of a better phrase, positive energy, rather than try and, you know, give her negative energy and sap away her own energy at the same time.
You said energy a lot.
Yeah, energy. Say it more.
All right. Invincible was amazing. Look at Invincible episode 1 and look at this. I'm not going to call it shit because it's not, but look at this episode 1 definitely like doesn't follow suit, does it?
I don't think it's episode 1 though. It's just like a standalone episode, because it wasn't even called Invincible. It was just called Adam Eve.
Yeah.
So
right. Well,
standalone.
Standalone Eve. I really liked the Invincible series, man. There was so many like real things in there. Like, Mark isn't as powerful as his dad. So he got fucked up by that lion thing. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And then in Omni-Man fucks them all up and makes it look easy.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, I might rewatch that, you know, 'cause it's only like 8 episodes, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
before season 2 comes out.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because they're quite shortish episodes.
I watched episode 1 with my dad, and he was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
That was sick.
Yeah, it's cool. But yeah, that I think the Atom Eve, I think the character of Atom Eve is interesting as well.
The superpower is great.
The superpower, because what do you take from the superpower?
Well, she can make anything what she wants it to be. It's kind of like the power of thought, innit? Yeah. And like you can take something, and she can reconstruct the molecules in it to make it whatever she wants. It's kind of like you see things in objective reality, like a spoon or a piece of paper with some letters on it, and you make the meaning. Like she's making the molecule. We can make the meaning of whatever these things are, and they can mean different things for us. So you look at 2 people who had an alcoholic parent, they maybe have very different lifestyles because they made it mean different things. It's not necessarily what happens to us; it's what we made it mean that shapes us.
You just reminded me, man. I love that, by the way. And I saw this clip on Instagram the other day. I think I sent it to you. I can't remember if I sent it to you or sent it to Mick. But it was this guy on a podcast, and he's talking about the difference between the hero story and the villain story. And he's like, the connecting thing is like there's a point of pain, and he's like, the difference is the villain goes, right, I want other people to experience this pain, and that's how I'm going to create things. And the hero goes, I don't want anyone to experience what I've experienced, so I'm going to help people. And it's like Atom Eve for me is like
pain.
He says wearing pain socks. Yeah. Atom Eve is a really good representation of that, based on what you said. Like if we look at the power of thought, it's like, do I want to use my thought to see things in a way that's going to be helpful for me, or do I want to see things in a way that's going to just drag me down and make me feel bad or judge myself or whatever? And I really love that as a principle, because I was watching, so me and Sachin are both in a coaching school run by our coach Ankush, shout out Ankush, and the AJC Coaching Career School. And on one of the recent webinars, I think it was, I was watching something, he was talking about the way we use language. And he was saying like, well, if the way we use language creates the way we see things, right? Because it's coming from our thoughts, so our language is a representation of our thinking in the moment. Then if we're always creating using our language anyway, unconsciously, why would I not consciously use language in a way that's helpful for me? And that's kind of like Atom Eve is representing that, of like, why am I not going to use these powers where I can rearrange molecules to create the things that are going to be beneficial for me? And then in series 1, she goes off and she does her thing, and she starts building like, jungles, and she starts building stuff that's good for civilization. And I love that, because it's like, yeah, like I can look at any point of time in my life, in the timeline of what's happened in my life previously, and I can pick any moment and I can make it mean something about me and have a choice. Do I want this to be a moment that I can reference as being helpful for me and to do good in my life, or do I want to use it as a moment in my life to go the other way? And it's like Atom Eve, she makes stuff that's nice. She could also make bombs. She could also make weapons. She could also, and that's what she was originally created for, according to this episode, was a weapon of mass destruction, basically.
Yeah, she
was a weapon. They wanted her to create things that would, you're having a war. Cool, right, we got this chick. She's going to make this thing. She's going to end the war right now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but look at our secret weapon.
Yeah.
That's fucked. But yeah, it reminds me of we have the power to make things weapons of mass destruction in our own lives. Like, oh, my dad just said this, so it means that, and now I'm never going to talk to him again. It's like, you can do that with anything, or you can choose not to. You can choose to create peace instead. This is what a lot of people misunderstand about mental illness. They think it's a disease. Let's say someone was standing in the back garden right now, punching themselves in the face, and you saw them do it every single day. Would you say that they have a disease?
No.
Okay, we're a bit different, but society...
People would be like, oh, what's wrong with him? Like,
exactly.
We need to check him out. And
because there's behavior being done every single day and is mounting up in damage.
Yeah.
This is what people seem to misunderstand about mental illnesses. Generally, day to day, what we would call something that's not debilitating. If it's not like let's say you can't get out of bed because you're depressed. Yeah? That's not an illness. Just like it's being created, and our language is a reflection, like you said, of our subconscious beliefs. So when you ask someone about their life, they'll just show you what they're creating. Doesn't look like I have much hope. Day to day is boring. I don't have any motivation. I don't want to do anything. It's telling us about how you create your world. And I think if people got that it's all within our control and that no one can cure us except for ourselves, man, a lot of this epidemic of mental health would not exist.
Yeah, it's true, and I think that there's, it's coming from a place of understanding or wanting to, understand each other, and what's really going on here. Like, right, dude, you're out there, you're punching yourself in the face every day. Like, what's going on beyond that? Like, what's the thinking that you have? What's the beliefs that you have that are creating that for you as your reality? Because the actions are just, they're like the end of the line. They're the end of the production line, right? Yeah. It's like what's at the start of that production line? If we work backwards through your actions, through the way that you see the world, through your language, through your belief system, for the way that you see yourself, what's going on at the beginning that's creating that outcome? If we work backwards, we get a really good picture of like how all of that other stuff is playing out in someone's life. And that's the bit that we can, address. Anyone can address that. And
if they want to.
If they want to, of course.
Which is a whole different story.
So yeah. And do you know what? Talking of Atom Eve, I'm going to segue this into something else. Talking of atoms.
Oppenheimer.
Wait! You like that one? You like that one?
That was actually really good.
You like that?
You're really proud of yourself.
Yeah, I was like, actually, this works quite well. Love a segue. So you haven't seen it, have you?
No, I did. Okay, before you get into it, so Aladdin, one of our friends, said, do you want to go and watch it? And I said, tell me the appeal of this movie. Yes, I get that it might be a cinematic experience. Okay, not really fussed about that. I get that it's an interesting story, but you already know how it ends. So what the fuck is the point in watching the movie?
It's true.
That's why I didn't watch it.
Yeah. Do you know what? I will say it's a good movie. I wouldn't put it in the category of great, and it's not one that I'd be clawing to see again. And I was just clawing, and I just went to see my barber, and I was talking to him about it, and he said the same thing. He's like, it's a good movie, but I wouldn't want to see it again. It's not like when I went to see Guardians 3, I went to see it again the next day, or like there's other films where I'm like, I need to go see that again. But there is some interesting stuff in it. Like, I'm not going to throw out too many spoilers, but obviously the whole premise of the movie is about J. Robert Oppenheimer, who was the main physicist who played a role in creating the atom bomb that basically ended World War II, or bombs. And essentially, like, there's a couple things that I pulled out that I really liked, and I think if you really analyze it, it's really profound. I think the first thing is the way they create the atom bomb, and the reaction of the atoms is interesting, because they basically crash atoms into each other, which then causes a reaction of other atoms then crashing into each other, and more, and it compounds outwards, right? So I was thinking that, like, when you start being a positive force in your life, it starts compounding out to other people. It starts bouncing into other people and affecting them. Like, one of my clients that I'm working with, he said to me the other day, like, I've seen such a profound shift in my life, but it's not just that. That I'm seeing how the way that I'm being different is affecting my family, my colleagues, my friends. And he's really seeing the knock-on effect of it. And it's like, that's what I see, like the way that those atoms interact with each other and then affect each other to then essentially create the bomb. It's like, we can create that same explosion in our life, like an explosion of positivity or love or whatever you want to call it, but an explosion that just goes so far beyond us that we can't even see the effect of it fully, because it gets passed on from one to another to another to another to another. It can be like 6 or 7 degrees separated from us, and we'll never see it. And it's like, that's what I want to take a stand for in my life. It's like being the atom of change in not just my life, but the people's lives around me, and therefore the people's lives around them, and therefore the people's lives around them, and so on and so forth. And I really like that, because when they were describing it in the movie, I was just like, bosh, I know what I'm getting from this. And it's just, it's science really, but it's the same thing with fruit, right? Like, the
grapes.
The grapes.
Yeah.
there's a quote from I can't remember who it's from now. It's someone. There's a quote from someone. It's basically,
shout out someone.
Shout out some guy. And it's basically like saying, like, you know, when grapes in a vine, what's it called, a vine field or whatever, on the vines ripen. Shout out some guy. Yeah, it happens one grape at a time. So like the first grape will ripen, and then that will release some enzymes and a signal to the other grapes around it to start ripening, and then they start releasing the things, and it starts from one grape and it moves outwards. And it's like, we can be the grape. Doesn't sound as profound, does it? We can be the grape in our lives for other people.
Some guy really articulated it better
some
than
guy.
I love this, and get like, you know, a lot of people have this Debbie Downer fucking attitude to changing the world. Yeah, they're like, oh, but there's so much to do. Who's gonna do it all? Not one person is gonna save the world. Yeah, you change the world every time you interact with people. So it starts with you. How you treat other people is the way you treat you. So if you're loving and forgiving to you, and you go out in the world and you're being that, and it impacts other people and they impact other people, this is like the chain effect, and this is how massive change comes about. Not like one heroic effort and then everything's sorted.
That's it. And that's what I love that Steve says. Hardison, shout out Steve Hardison, the ultimate coach. He's like, the only person that I'm interested in having a positive impact on is the person in front of me. I don't care about trying to impact millions, hundreds, thousands. Like, it's just that one person in front of me, because if I have an impact in that one person's life, then they're going to take that away, and they're going to then pass it on to someone else in their own way. It's not going to be the same way. They're not going to copy it, but they're going to take it on for themselves. You know, the impact that people have had in my life in that way, I've taken it on. I've seen the change in me, and then I go and pass it on to, you know, people that I work with, people who I spend the most time with, Shen, you, parents, friends, you know, whatever.
And our amazing Nerd Life Coaches audience.
Yeah, and you guys.
Our
like,
friends.
This is our version of being the grape in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring back the grape quote.
You'll find out who some guy is so we can get him on the fucking podcast. I think there's something that's really underrated, which is people underestimate the impact that they're having on everyone else by who they're choosing to be in the world. Look at all of the stuff that we talk about. Mortal Kombat is being such a grape in my life. I've got it on my body forever. That sounds really funny, a grape in my life. Same with Naruto. Like, these things are, the impact is not just what's visible. I don't think the creator of Naruto was sitting there thinking, yeah, Sachin's going to look great with these tattoos that he's got of these characters from my anime.
Might have done. Could have seen the future.
But, you know, like, that's really, that's why I love what we do as coaches, because we're on the front lines of change. We're having one conversation at a time, and those conversations are affecting people in pockets and ripples in ways that we don't even know about.
Yeah, and sometimes we won't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, sometimes people will come to us and be like, by the way, you don't know me, and this is the impact you're having on me. And a lot of times we won't know.
Yeah, I've had a conversation recently with someone who I spoke to originally in January, who messaged me out of the blue like a few months later. Hey Alex, like, just want to say that conversation we had, like, this is how much it's changed for me, like, in my life since then, like, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know that. Like, I would never have known unless they got back in contact with me. And it's like that's kind of what we're getting at, is you never know the impact that you're going to have on someone's life, you know. And that can be in both ways. That can be in a positive way or a negative way. You know, if you're being a dick to people and they're having a terrible day, you don't know how they're going to carry that forward. If you're being nice to people, you smile at people, you know. There's the classic thing of, like, you know, pay it forward. You know, if you're buying a coffee or something, like, pay for the next person's thing and just get on with your day. And you don't know the effect that's going to have on that person. And it's like just being of service and being good in the world just because why not?
I did this thing one time where I was in the coffee shop. I don't drink coffee, as you know. I went to get some kind of tea or something, and there was like 4 or 5 people in the line behind me, and I just said to the person, I'll pay for everyone's stuff. And I think some people took the piss because they got like crisps, sandwich, drink, coffee, all this stuff. It ended up coming to like £65 or £67 or something like that. And I paid it, and someone asked me, why are you doing this? And I said, I'm not doing it for a thank you. Yeah, you can thank me if you want, but I want to be an example of why people believe in good people. And you've seen what I've done for you. go and do something similar for someone else.
Pass it on.
Yeah, I think there's a very underestimated enormous impact in that. I don't know how that rippled out for the next 2 weeks on other people, but I know something happened.
That's it. And yeah, with Oppenheimer, the other thing that really stood out for me was like at the end of the movie, well, at the end of Oppenheimer's life, he basically started to be opposed to the use of nuclear weapons because he saw the devastation and he was like, shit, these shouldn't be things. And he basically takes a stand against the thing that he was originally heavily involved in. And I love that because it's like he's taken a stand for what he believes to be true. Yeah, he was part of the main scientist and whatever, and he became like one of the most famous people in the world because he created the bomb, and his team they worked with. But he was like, I don't actually stand for this. Like, this isn't what I don't want this to be my legacy. I don't want to be known as the guy who created the atom bomb. Like, I want to be known as the guy who actually opposed this thing that we created because it's going to ruin the world. Like, there's gonna be a knock-on effect, as we were just saying, of this. And it's like, we're gonna destroy the world with terror, with fear, and you see it now all the time, like, oh, we can't do this because North Korea might hit the red button, or no one's helping out, let's not get into the politics, no one's helping out Ukraine because they're scared of what Russia's gonna do. Like, that's all a knock-on effect. And Oppenheimer started taking a stand for that, and he's like, actually, yeah, I know I created this thing, but I'm gonna take a stand against it now because I don't believe it's right. I think we need to pass some sort of, I don't know, political thing so that there's control over how these things are being created, how many there are. Like, we need to control it, otherwise it's going to get out of hand. And it reminded me of like, what are we taking a stand for in our life? What are the things that we value? What do we really believe in? What are the truths that we want to stand by in our lives that become the pillar of our lives, you know? And taking a stand for it, like you were saying earlier, like you're stepping up, you're taking a stand level. And that's like really what I see there with Oppenheimer. He's like, dude, like, this can't be cool. We can't just let every Tom, Dick and Harry run around creating these bombs that can just blow up a whole city in an instant. Like, it's insane.
It often looks like with Oppenheimer, it sounds like, oh yeah, this thing is very powerful, it's very useful, it's going to end this war, great. But it took on a different life after that. Yeah. And I think there's something to be said about that, man. Look at Pain in Naruto. Almighty push, you can destroy a whole town, but once you've achieved peace, what are you going to do after? You're not gonna be all right with not using your powers anymore. You got a fucking Rinnegan active and all of that. Okay, we're getting off topic, but I think there's something to be said about that. Like, when you're being a stand for something, you stay the same throughout the journey, as in like you stand for the same thing. But when it's outcome driven, when it's more like I need to create this thing, and it's not about like a cause higher than yourself, it takes on a different life afterwards. You tend to reflect on how selfish you've been. Yeah.
And then it's like, you know, and again, part of the work that we do is like taking a stand in other people's lives, right? Like, do you want to be living your life that way? What effect do you want to have on the people around you? Why aren't you doing it? Here's how you can do it. Like, let's help you become the person who can do that. And it's like, you know, when you take a strong stand for things, that people actually, even if people don't agree with you, they normally respect you because you're taking such a strong stand for your values and the things that you believe in. And there's people that, you know, I see online, I don't necessarily agree with their opinion, but I do kind of respect that they're so solid in, like, they're not going to budge on their view. They're like, no, this is my truth. This is how I see things. And there's a real, like,
that's why I rate Donald Trump, by the way.
Yeah, he came to mind when I was saying that. Like, he's so like, and again, I don't agree with him, but he's so like, no, this is the way I see it. This is how it is. And I'm not gonna wobble on that.
Do you know what he said? Someone they were doing like some sort of well, I don't know what they call them, town halls or like debates or something. And Hillary Clinton was talking about something, and she goes, they asked Donald Trump. They go something like, how can we trust you to run the country? And I can't remember the rest of the question. He said something like, you know how I know the system's rigged and that your votes don't matter and stuff? He goes, because I use it. I use it to win stuff. I pay for the votes and all that. I'm telling you the truth. I'm going to change some things and I'm going to use the system to my advantage. I'm just telling you the truth. They won't tell you the truth. And I've just found it fascinating. Like, he won the hearts of some people because he was willing to be a stand for the truth.
Yeah.
And some people were like, fuck this guy, and they're like, yeah, all right, who's perfect? But look at, like, I think they voted for him because they respected him.
Yeah, some people probably did. And
I'm
like,
glad I don't get involved in
yeah,
politics.
I mean, I definitely don't. But that's it. Like, when you take a strong stand for things, like it's even just for yourself, innit? Like, take it like me. I'm taking a real stand for my health and fitness at the minute. Real strong stand. Like, I've been going to the gym every morning, and it's like I wasn't doing that before. I was making all the excuses in the world to, oh no, 3 days a week is enough. Like, I can't go 4 times, 5 times. Now it's become a part of my day. Just get up, walk to the gym, do a workout, or have a stretch, or, you know, like a mobility session or something. And I'm taking a stand. I'm taking a stand for the things that I consume. I'm taking a stand for, you know, not sitting down all day, like actually being up, walking. You know, I use my standing desk quite a lot. Or if I'm on a phone call, I just like pace around I look like a crazy person, but like pace around the house. Like, I'm taking a stand, and it's like, it's changing my relationship with myself, and it's meaning that I'm becoming in better and better condition physically, and therefore mentally, because I'm taking a stand. And it's like, there's no wobbliness in there, you know. There's no like, oh, shouldn't I? It's like, no, this is what I'm.
This is a quick side note. Yeah, this is why we're successful as coaches, because we live what we're talking about. A lot of life coaches will struggle to make an income from what they do because they're not living what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And I don't mean talking about like on podcasts and stuff. I just mean talking about with our clients about whatever it is. If we're talking to someone about self-forgiveness, we're fucking living it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's very
All
true.
right. What else have you been watching?
All right. What have I been watching? I haven't been watching it, but the Loki season 2 trailer came out, and I watched the first season. I know you didn't.
I watched a couple of episodes, and it was interesting, but it didn't hook me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But I mean, I don't know what. You can't really get a lot from a trailer because it's like 2 minutes of like, this is the stuff that's going to happen, right? But it looks like some interesting stuff around like jumping around time and stuff, whatever. But the first season, like, what I loved was it was really a journey of Loki and him learning to love himself, because he starts out like, you know, he's the god of mischief. He's like done all this stuff, like, you know, he disappears from that scene in Endgame. Is it Endgame or in Infinity War?
I think it's Infinity War.
It's Infinity War, isn't it? He
Fucking
disappears from that scene with the Tesseract, whatever. And he basically appears in this like other timeline, and he's still like the god of mischief. He's still like that's when they've just caught him at the end of Avengers, right? So it's like the peak of his powers essentially, and he's still like evil as hell. And then he finds out like, dude, you're not the only Loki, like, chill in it. There's like bare different versions of you, bare different variants. And he's like, oh, and it humbles him, and you can see he's kind of starting to question himself, like, if I'm not the only Loki, like, what the hell, like, big shot to the ego. And then he goes on a journey through the series of like chasing down like what they call like the worst version of him, and it ends up being this woman called Sylvie. She changes her name from Loki to Sylvie, and he ends up basically like falling in love with her, and they have like this moment at the end. And for me, it represented like a journey of Loki learning to love himself, because you look at the character, he's always like been very outside in, meaning that he's wanted the power, he's wanted this, he's wanted recognition to like fill that void that we were talking about. And when that void isn't full, he just goes out seeking for more. Whereas what happens in this series is he starts looking inwards and starts looking at himself and becoming at peace with himself. And I think the representation of him physically falling in love with another version of himself is him learning to love himself as he is and not feel like he has to go out and chase more and more and more. And I was like, damn, that makes so much sense to me. Like, it hits me.
Yeah.
You know?
That's why I'm glad I've done the journey of becoming a life coach before I create my anime.
Yeah.
Because I don't, mate, if I had done it the opposite way around, I would have made a lot of impact and a lot of money, but I would have done some stupid shit with it because of that chasing and because of not knowing like what it means to love myself. And the void closing. Now I'm less and less interested in stuff that I used to be. But you see this all the time with people who have money. They're Indians, for example, Punjabi people, generally, when they have money, they're not trying to spend it. They're like not trying to spend it if they've got it. And there's like fear around it. There's other people who have a lot of money and they're doing stuff like they might be doing drugs. They might be into some kind of extreme thing, gambling, who knows. because they're trying to fill this void. And that the journey of loving ourselves closes that void, because you forced to go in rather than out.
Ooh.
And spending time with ourselves isn't necessarily just, oh yeah, I went to the cinema on my own, or I took myself out for a meal or whatever. It's different. It's not just what you do externally. It's how you talk to you, the obligations you put yourself under, the commitments you have, the way you're forgiving with yourself, the way you're light and breezy with yourself. That's real self-love.
It's true, man. And it's like, as you were saying that, like, I was thinking, I'm so happy that I had my own personal journey before coming a coach. Like, I'd done so much work on myself, just literally with myself, learning from books, learning from meditation, learning from, listening to different people's stories on podcasts, taking things on board, testing them for myself, trying them, and really, in a way, finding myself, or like coming to peace with myself, internally. That now when I'm working with people, it's like the impact is greater, because like I've been on the journey. And I was telling someone that I connected with this week about my story, my origin story, as I like to call it. And she was like, oh my God, it sounds like you just basically coached yourself for like however many years, like 5-6 years. And I was like, yeah. I said, that's why I coach now, because I know that it worked for me. The things that I learned had such a profound impact on my life that now I just want to pass it on. And that's like one thing that, like, for me, it's like you were saying before about walk the walk, innit? Like, not just talk the talk, walk the walk. It's like, before you do anything, are you really grounded in the thing that you're doing, or are you like going out there and being like a fake it till you make it kind of person?
That fake it till you make it shit doesn't fly for very long.
No.
And it's exhausting. I had this conversation with someone recently. I think it was either today or a couple of days ago. They were talking about how they're like a chameleon, and they can put on different acts in different environments to get to be liked and get what they want from it. And they said, yeah, but I'm really exhausted. Like, I'm tired all the time. I said, yeah, I'm not surprised. It sounds like there's a lot of fucking hard work that's going into you pretending to be mates with people. It's gross.
Yeah.
Gross misconduct. How about that? I was watching Baki recently.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, mate. So season 1 is on Netflix. It's called Baki Hanma. Oh, mate. It's so violent. But it's so good. Like, it's just telling this story about fighters from all over the world, and they build them up to be stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger than the last one. And it's just, they got a whole thing going on. The second season, it just came out recently, and I was watching a couple of episodes. So the strongest man in the world is called the Ogre. It's Bucky's dad. And Bucky, the only reason he's training is because he wants to be stronger than his dad. And his dad is so powerful that, like, these guards tried to stop him from coming into this facility, and his eyes changed color, and it's like his aura infected these guards, and they started fighting each other. 2 of them fighting each other, and 1 of them punching himself in the face. And he walked past them. Then he goes, okay, that's enough. They all stopped. He goes, you were right to start fighting each other, because if you didn't, I would have killed all of you. Oof. And it's just like, he has this weird essence about him, and he's scary, and he's also like, I don't know, he's like an animal, and people are fucking terrified of him. You can shoot him, and his muscles are so strong that they spit out the bullet.
Wow.
Obviously, it's an anime, yeah, let's not get carried away. But one of the things I love about Bucky is he's not interested in fighting other people because he wants to be the best. He doesn't. This is contrary to most anime. Most anime is like, yeah, I want to be the best or whatever. Look at Pokemon, fucking Beyblade and all that. They want to be the best. He doesn't give a shit about that. It's kind of like Saitama.
I was going to say, from One Punch Man.
He doesn't care about that. He has one goal. Fuck you, Dad. I want to be stronger than you. Because his dad's like the most feared person in the world, and he hasn't got a good relationship with him and all of that. And you see this with a lot of the fighters in Baki. Like, they've got this ego about them, which has driven them to a point where they've worked on their skills a lot. But there's also like a lot of pride on the line every time they fight, so they're scared. Maybe scared is the wrong word, but they're not fighting as strong as they could because they've got too much on it. It means too much about them. And I guess like what I've taken from this is Bucky doesn't give a shit about how it looks to other people if he wins or loses. he's just putting in reps to try and get stronger than his dad. Whether he wins fights or loses them, or whether people know how strong he is, he doesn't care. And then you got these other guys, they want people to be scared of them. They want people to know what fucking time it is. And Baki wins this tournament in season 1, and a bunch of these like killers find out that he won the tournament, and they've all converged on the city to try and fight Baki, and then they end up fighting each other, and he's there like in the middle of this all like, you lot are fucking idiots. You're grown adults. I'm at school. He's 17. He's at school. He's got his arm in a cast or some shit. He's got a girlfriend. He's got typical like teenager problems going on. And he's got these weirdos who've sought him out from all corners of the world just to fucking fight him. And sometimes he looks so fed up. He's like, again. And it just like what the lesson I'm getting from it is sometimes you meet people who are so driven by an outcome that they're not fun to be around, and their lives are very skewed to like, look at Grant Cardone, for example, and Gary Vee. It feels to me like they care about working and that's it, and having. Yeah. Whereas I'm more looking at like, well, what's my quality of life saying every day?
Yeah. And that's a big shift, because it's not looking outwards, it's looking inwards, and it's not looking too far ahead into the future. It's looking at like day-to-day experience, right? And it's like, what is that quality of life? Like, am I living a life that I would say day-to-day is quality? Are my relationships good? Is my health good? Am I doing the things that I love? Do I have free time? Am I easy on myself, or am I beating myself up? You know, am I eating well? You know, all of this stuff is like, that's a good quality of life, and you can only take care of that day to day. Can't take care of that in 5 years time. You can take care of it today. You can't take care of it in 5 years time, because 5 years time doesn't exist. Spoiler alert. Only today does now. And it's like and I think that's like when you really slow down to that, it's like that's all that matters really. You know, are you living a good life now?
Yeah, and that's the thing about like, where are we coming from when we're participating in the relationships we have in our lives, with our businesses, with our health, with everything? Like, are we coming from the place that we want to get to? That's the real game changer for me, man. And shout out Devin Banderson, the game changer coach. That's really what it is. You know, are you coming from the place of, okay, if I had all of these things and if my relationships were like this, what's the difference? Like, I did this with my mom and dad. Who would I be being at the point where I've dropped all this bullshit with them and we're just having fun? All right, well, let me be that guy now. And someone said to me, what, are you just going to pretend like nothing happened? I'm like, yeah. But not from a place of like trying to suppress it, but genuinely just dropping it, because it's not helpful. And that's the part where the balloon of the ego is punctured by this like pin of truth, you could call it. The truth being that, hey man, you're making that shit up.
Yeah. And it's daily practice. Yeah. You know, because as you were saying that, I was like, oh man, yeah, I've had so many moments where I swing from one to the other. You know, I go from quality of life now, and then it's like, oh, I need to do all this stuff to have stuff. And I like move between the two. And it's like, you're never just gonna, well, I wouldn't say never, but it's hard to stay just in the one place of quality of life now, unless you're putting in the reps, unless you're doing like practicing it daily, like be it now. Like you said, it's like you could easily go home to your parents and be fucked off with them again for loads of stuff. Do you know what I mean? But you're choosing not to. You're choosing to practice the love, the compassion. Let's have fun. Like, let's forgive and forget all the other stuff. Like, you're choosing it, because if you went home and you were how you were, however long ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago, I'm sure in an instant your parents would also meet you at that, right?
Yeah.
And it's daily practice, and I think that's like something that, and this has really been a really good reminder for me as well, like the daily practice of just the quality of life now, not just like have. It's easy to get swayed into that.
Yeah.
And both are important, and you only get to experience life now.
There's that, you know, remember that Rick and Morty episode, the Death Crystals one? The one that I'd tell everyone to watch. Yeah. They say it quite well there. There's this, I don't know how they say it, but there's like a balance between living in the moment and planning for the future, doing things for deferred gratification and enjoying them now. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I wanted to do this year, but I'm not, because I'm going to Arizona. I'm okay with that though, because I made my bed and I'm good with that. Like, I'm going to Amsterdam today. It ain't for a boys trip or to get loaded and fucked up. Like, I'm not doing that. And at some point, yeah, I might want to go take a holiday just because I want to go Bali or whatever it might be, but not because of like, oh yeah, when I have these things, something will be different. Because I'm living in the understanding that it won't be different internally, I can wait. It's cool.
And you know what? When this really hit me recently is when I went on holiday. I spent the first 2-3 days. But I kind of said to my parents and my girlfriend, look, I'm going to do 2-3 days of work because I've got to take some calls because we're going away again in a few weeks, and that's like total 10 days off. I was like, I can't just keep moving stuff, like, so I'm going to do like a couple days of work, and then I'm going to have the rest of the time just holiday chilling with you guys. And they were like, yeah, that's fine. Like, I rolled them into that. And they were like, it's fine. And what I really noticed was like, when I really just gave myself the permission to just be on holiday, like, I enjoyed it so much more. Whereas like that first day between like transitioning from like doing work calls / being on holiday to like just having a holiday, I was still like, oh, I felt like I had stuff to do. I was like, there's things like, I need to check my phone for messages and but then when I just gave myself the permission of just like, look, just put your phone up on the counter. You don't need to check it when you come back for lunch, check it in the evening. That's cool. You're not going to miss anything. The quality of my day-to-day experience on the holiday went through the roof. I was just chilling. I was having fun with my girlfriend. I was having fun with my mum, my dad. We were, going out and doing stuff. And it really showed me, like, I could have just carried on experiencing the holiday as, like, oh my God, like, I need to check my phone and who's messaged me and what have I missed? And, oh my God, I'm missing out on business because I'm not working. And it's just like, no, actually, that is kind of true. And I saw more truth in, like, actually, why didn't I just spend quality time with my parents and enjoy this time that we have together? Because it's very rare, not rare, but like, that's not a day-to-day occurrence that we're all together. We can just chill. No one's got nothing going on.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's like that shift really showed me, like, when you give yourself the permission, it's possible. And that's all it is, giving yourself the permission and practicing it daily.
It's hard to do that when you're like whoosh, whipping yourself like, yeah, you can chill and have holiday when you've made this much money. You can keep investing in yourself when you've made this much off it back. Like we were talking about earlier, like in entrepreneurship, there's not like a solid fucking rule book that says, yeah, when you put this much money in, you'll get this much money out. It doesn't work like that. In my experience, like, logic can only take you so far. It's the same with matters of the heart. They're like, entrepreneurship, I believe, is like about the spirit, right? And like bringing something out of you, putting it into the world for the benefit of everyone. With matters of the heart, it's like your heart is you're expressing what's in your heart. The logic, it can't really do much with that. And I don't know, man. I'm really seeing something with that myself. A lot of calmed down vibes on my side.
Nice. And that sounds like a wrapping up point for today, ladies and gentlemen. So, as we always say, right? We want to know.
No, hold on. Wheel up that. Hold on. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about. It's Transformers related, but now I've forgotten what it is.
Well.
All right, we'll save it for next time.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got that dramatic hold on in there.
Come back next time on Nerd Life Coaches. Sachin remembers what he was talking about. But yeah, like, thank you for being with us, and we want to know what you've got from this episode. Like, what are you taking away from, if you haven't seen these things that we've been speaking about, Loki, Oppenheimer, Invincible, the Atom Eve episode, what have you got from this conversation that you can take into your life? And if you have watched those things, what did you get from them? Like, we want to know. Like we said before, this is a platform for us to open up a conversation and not just to be here and be like, oh, hey, we're going to talk about some stuff, because we'd literally be doing it anyway.
Yeah, we do this.
So, hit us up at Nerd Life Coaches on TikTok, on Instagram.
And YouTube.
And YouTube. If you like this episode, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and be ready for more coming your way soon. Nerd Life.